superior durability, superior hiding, superior coverage, simply superior.
Sasso insecticide spray and coil.
Oh, hello, good evening, welcome. This is Ghana Tonight. We're live from a news about this week, and also live on TV3 Ghana on Facebook, and also on DSTV channel 279. We're all across the world on 3news.com. We're streaming live on YouTube on the 3 News YouTube page. So go on 3 News on YouTube, and you can follow us every step of the way. Tonight, beyond the presentation in Parliament, what do the figures in the 2025 media budget review really mean for the ordinary man? Now, we are bringing the meaning, the relevance of what the finance minister presented in this media budget review to you. He's reviewed and giving his verdict on the last 6 months of the year, or the first 6 months of the year. What is your verdict of the state of the economy over the last 6 months? Stay with us, we have a conversation. Still on the media budget review tonight, we spotlight the management of the public wage bill and how it has become an albatross around the government's neck. What's driving the pressure and what are the options on the table? Stay with us. We'll have a conversation tonight. Also, the minority in Parliament staged a walkout during the media budget review presentation, headed straight to the Jubilee House to present a petition to the President. We have the details and what it all really means politically, practically, with the update from the Ghana Police Service that they have arrested some 2 persons who were alleged to have been involved in the violence or the disturbances in the Ablekuma North rerun of the 19 polling stations a couple of weeks ago. Fiscal live here on Ghana Tonight. As always, you're an integral part of the conversation. Let's hear from you. The hashtag we're using is Ghana Tonight on Facebook and on X. Let's get talking. Let's settle for Ghana Briefs.
The Minority Caucus in Parliament on Thursday deserted the chamber and proceeded to petition the Dean of the Diplomatic Corps over alleged acts of electoral violence during the just-ended Ablekuma North parliamentary rerun. The group later moved to the Jubilee House, where a similar petition was presented to the presidency for action to be taken against the perpetrators of the violence.
I present this petition for and on behalf of the entire, respectfully, the entire minority. And we have also attempted, I'm sure the seat of government, you have all the videos of the violence, but we've also, just for the benefit of doubt, a recording of footages of the violence that reportedly occurred. We have presented this to you, through you, to His Excellency the President. We are confident that the dutiful action will be taken as it should.
Government, meanwhile, has banned the award of all government contracts in dollars, tasking all government agencies to quote all contracts in cedis. Finance Minister Dr. Kasiala Tuforsing also warned against the pricing of goods and services in dollars.
President John Dramani Mahama has directed that beginning today, 24th of July 2025, no contract awarded by government, irrespective of source of funding, should be denominated in foreign currency. Mr. Speaker, we also want to use this opportunity to remind the public that per the Foreign Exchange Act 2006 at 723, companies, institutions, and individuals are prohibited from pricing, advertising, receipting, or making payment for goods and services in foreign currencies in Ghana.
Government has announced that it is abolishing the COVID-19 levy to introduce a new valued added tax regime that will enhance the economic fortunes of the country. Delivering the mid-year budget review in Parliament on Thursday, the Finance Minister also revealed that government has settled outstanding trainee allowances.
COVID levy will be abolished. The effective VAT rate will be reduced. The punitive cascading effect of the GET Fund and NHIS levy will be removed. VAT flat rate will be removed, and a unified VAT rate will be implemented. The VAT registration threshold will be increased to exempt small and micro businesses, and compliance will be improved through public education.
Ghanaians and Canadians can now fly directly to each other's country from next year for business, schooling, or pleasure. This is because Ghana and Canada have signed an agreement which will see Air Canada fly directly from Canada to Ghana and vice versa. Travel time between both countries is about 14 hours with at least one stopover in another. Canadian High Commissioner to Ghana, Miriam Montrat, noted that this will increase access for businesses and individuals who want to save time and money.
Canada is not close. So if you have to do 2 stops or 1 stop and it takes you 18 hours to get to Accra, it's also a deterrent. Yeah. So I'm pleased to mention that Canada signed an agreement, Air Canada actually signed an agreement with Ghana to have direct flights from Canada. So that will be great when it comes to access. That's supposed to occur towards the end of 2026.
Founder of defunct Beige Bank, Michael Ninaku, has been acquitted of all 43 criminal charges, including stealing, fraudulent breach of trust, and money laundering, after a court ruled that he had no case to answer. Beige Bank's license was revoked in August 2018 by the Bank of Ghana, which cited serious irregularities and non-compliance with regulatory standards. The central bank placed the institution under receivership, triggering investigations into alleged financial malpractice. Despite the weight of the allegations, the court found the prosecution's evidence insufficient to proceed with a conviction, dismissing the charges in a judgment.
As more news on 3news.com. Make some time and visit 3news.com. This is Ghana Tonight. We're live as well on 3FM 92.7. Also on 3 News on YouTube. So look out for the YouTube page, 3 News. We're live there as well. As always, probably brought to you by Flamingo Paint, Simplest Superior, and Sasso Insecticide Spray and Coil, Kumtumtum Preco. Coming up, beyond the budget presentation by the Finance Minister earlier today, what do the figures really mean for you? And how does it reflect on your own verdict of your own personal state of the economy over the last 6 months, or the first 6 months of the year? The Finance Minister gave a verdict of the fiscal management of the state of affairs of the economy as required by law. For him to do so, a review of the first 6 months and a projection into the next 6 months of the year. Well, the Finance Minister has spoken. What we're going to do tonight is to engage a few minds to speak to what the Finance Minister has said, because as for the Finance Minister, he's already made his case earlier today. But then, especially because before he spoke, others had already stated their views and opinions about the state of the economy, we would go into what he has already said, because we've heard from him. A number of people are going to be joining us. We'll have a conversation tonight. But on the matter of the cedi appreciation against the dollar and how this will be sustained over the next 6 months, already, because you've heard some others raise questions about whether this can be sustained and how long it would be sustained for. Would it go below, or would it appreciate much better than what we are seeing now, so as to have a trickle-down effect on other areas of the economy? Well, this is what the Finance Minister said about the cedi and the measures to consolidate the gains. Take a look.
Right, Honourable Speaker. Government commitment to implement the following measures, committed to implement the following measures to stabilize the exchange rate. The Speaker, we committed to establish the Ghana Gold Board to enhance the generation and accumulation of foreign exchange to support the stability of our currency. Mr. Speaker, we committed to pursue strong fiscal consolidation through the reduction in public sector spending and the fiscal deficit to reduce the pressures on the exchange rate. Mr. Speaker, the Bank of Ghana also committed to implement appropriate FX forward auction to support the stability of the cedi. And Mr. Speaker, finally, we committed that the 24-hour economy and accelerated export development program will boost local production and reduce reliance on export. Right Honourable Speaker, let me state emphatically that these deliberate policies announced in the 2025 budget to stabilize the Ghana cedi are yielding massive results.
Well, so that's the finance minister there, and the measures to consolidate the gains that the city has made. Joe Jackson is a financial analyst as well. He's joining us on Zoom right now. Would also be joined shortly. Professor Patrick Asuming is a professor of economics at the University of Ghana, Legon, as well. And we'll have Dr. George Donfe, who's also been sharing his thoughts with us. Joe Jackson, good evening. Thank you for joining us. This is what the finance minister is saying, that these are measures, you heard him outline there, to consolidate the gains that the city has made over the last 6 months. Potent enough, to consolidate the gains as he has just outlined. You are a financial analyst. You understand how this market works. What's your verdict on this?
First of all, I would say yes, because there was a clear indication for the things that they had done well and what the results were. And I would say that once you know what you're doing well, that is obviously the first step to be able to replicate it in the days ahead. So that was admitted clearly. And in that sense, we are in good stead to go forth.
And one other measure that he talks about as well, beyond the gold board and others, is that government also intends to reopen the domestic bond market. We're going to hear from that shortly after the DDEP threw this market out of gear. He says that beyond just reopening the plans by government to reopen the domestic bond market by August, all things being equal, government is also going to engage and, in fact, review the book runners and engage them to also assist government in that process of reopening the domestic bond market and also engage these new book runners as well. I want to find out how this strikes you, especially because there are those who hold the view that, maybe it's too early for government to start mulling this idea because of the impact of the domestic debt exchange program and how people who had invested in government bonds that were thought to be the safest financial instrument in this country had to take haircuts and deal with the losses on their investment. So people are still healing from the wounds of that experience. You would agree with that thought, that maybe you probably wait till the end of the year?
Listen, the timing it has to be right. We cannot and we should not continue to fund long-term, medium-term needs with short-term funds. Treasury bills are only meant to fill the short-term cash flow requirements for government, not to become a permanent borrowing instrument. No. And if things are improving, why not go back? In spite of the fact that a lot of Ghanaians are suffering from what yesterday in another forum somebody called post-traumatic stress syndrome, PTS, from post-traumatic stress syndrome from the domestic debt exchange program and the haircuts that the foreigners, the foreign Euro bond holders got. You still have to do something. Listen, we can only take a risk. Our situation was so dire that whatever course of action we agreed to take, there will be some risk. At this moment, I think that considering how well the government has been able to drive down the T-bill rate, considering how well the government has been able to drive down inflation, it's only right that given the discipline they have showed so far, he should be able to dip into the bond market. The timetable is neither here nor there. I think it's fine. And I'm really glad that they've already taken up the issue of the book runners. Because remember that in the previous regime, book runners were a source of concern because of the perceived conflict between the book running institutions and the powers that be in the Ministry of Finance.
Yeah.
So it's good that they are going to open a transparent process to determine new book runners who will not, hopefully, have the same perception of conflict of interest that there was before.
Mr. Jackson, very important point that you make then. Another issue that was raised by the minority NPP, even before this budget was read by the finance minister earlier today, was that if the government or the finance minister was spending, the picture of the economy in the last 6 months would have been different from what we're seeing now. And because he has been fiscally prudent by going on this fiscal consolidation path under this IMF program, that's what has also contributed to how good this economic picture looks over the last 6 months. I want to hear from Dr. Kabiru Mahama. He is the Member of Parliament for the Wale constituency, also the former economic advisor to the flag bearer of the NPP in the 2024 election, Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia. This is what he said to my colleague Christian Yale about this narrative of this finance minister not spending, which has contributed to how good the picture looks now. Take a look.
It provides fiscal space for the government, the current government, to spend. And I think that when we begin to get the benefit, the dividend, I mean, some credit should be shared with the previous government.
Your side has accused the finance minister of not releasing funds to ministers, ministries, and government agencies to embark on their activities thereof. Do you expect him to address what you have long held, that he's not doing well in helping even MDAs, for instance?
Well, I mean, consumption, even previous appointees have not had the payment of their ex gratia after almost half a year. That is a major concern. Statutory funds have not been released. I'm sure that he's going to announce on release, because we are getting signal that some of them will be released today, tomorrow. If he does that, they're good. But GET fund, health insurance fund, even some funds related to district assessment common fund, MP's project, none of that has been released. And we are getting to the third quarter of the year. So I'm sure the government should be able to announce some policies, should be able to give us respite, should announce how many of these statutory funds have been released, what are the outstanding areas, and when they will be released.
And from when the budget was announced to now, we are coming to have a mid-year budget review. How would you rate the performance of this government on the economy?
Well, truly, the government has not given us any reason to rate it. Nothing has been done. Like they all say, 6 months is not enough for us to even assess what they're able to do. I've said that if a foundation is set and you are gaining some successes on the back of that, who do we give the credit to? Is it the current government or them? Until said that they are able to, I will call it the transmission mechanism, we're able to be sure that these are their measures resulting in these policies. They are putting in some measures. Fiscal consolidation, they are doing quite well. It comes at a cost to the government.
Are they good enough? Can you commend them for some of those policies?
Of course, I say that when government is able to hold expenditure in the context of IMF program, it's good. It's a conditionality you're obliging. It takes discipline to go by those, especially so a government that said they were not going to, they didn't believe in the IMF program. Now they are going to with the tenets of the IMF program. So it's good. And I mean, there's no problem whatsoever commending them for having this particular fiscal consolidation. Of course, it comes at a cost to the Ghanaian people, but it also to the advantage of the economy.
So that's Dr. Kabiru Mahama, is former aide to the flag bearer of the NPP in the 2024 elections, Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia. Is a member of parliament for the Wale constituency. That's the home constituency of the former vice president. But that point he makes about the finance minister not spending. The finance minister sought to dispel that notion and respond to that narrative that over the last 6 months, this is the kind of spending he has done. He says he's been spending, but he's been spending prudently and wisely. And he outlines it. Take a look at this. It says these are some key investments in some essential services that he has put money in. And this is it. Some 2.9 billion to the District Assembly's Common Fund, some 2.7 billion to SNIT to safeguard pensions, 9.1 billion to the energy sector to ensure a stable electricity supply, 5 billion to clear outstanding arrears, 4.6 billion to the GET Fund, 1 billion to sustain free senior high school, 4.6 billion to the National Health Insurance Scheme, 1.4 billion to clear NHIS claims, 252 million spent on vaccines and essential medicines, and then also some 72.8 million on capitation grant, 895 million to keep school feeding program running, 477 million paid to leave beneficiaries, 300 million to the no fee stress policy, 122.8 million for BEC registration, combined 654 million Ghana cedis to support teacher and nursing trainees. Also says 25 million had been paid to in assembly members allowance, 21 million cedis to the National Apprenticeship Program, 34.5 million to support the Jumara program, 2 billion cedis paid to ensure government MMDAs function effectively. 2 billion cedis had also been used to rescue the struggling National Investment Bank, which we will come to shortly as well. And then he makes another strong point about what has been done so far in terms of the spending. And this is where I bring in Professor Patrick Esuming to help us understand exactly what the impactful spending the finance minister says, if it's a potent response to the narrative before this budget that he has not been spending. He says he's been spending in an impactful way. Professor Patrick Esuming, we are taking this conversation away from what the finance minister has said and the responses from the politicians to the doorstep of the experts. Professor Patrick Esuming is a professor of economics at the University of Ghana. He's joining us right now. Thank you very much for joining us. Now, you just heard the finance minister, in fact, outline all the spending that he said he's done in a very impactful way, as against what the minority says. Look, if you had been spending all the while, maybe the picture will look differently. Did the finance minister respond potently to that question the minority had been posing all the while?
So I think the argument about the finance minister not spending can be broken into two parts, or maybe three. One part is expenditure management, or restraint on expenditure from what we had before the previous year. So I think the growth of expenditure has been controlled. So if people say, compared to in the past, the finance minister is not spending, that's right. The other part is the finance minister spending what has been approved. I think that is what the finance minister sufficiently disproved, because if you look at the planned expenditure for the first half of the year and compare it to what was spent, it's almost the same. So it's only a marginal difference. So I don't think you can accuse the finance minister of not spending. However, if you look at the amount to be spent, 270 billion over the year, and the fact that only barely 102 or so was programmed to be spent in the first half also of the year, then it means that the spending has been backloaded. So it means that we should see more spending in the second half of the year than the first half of the year. So that is the sense in which you can also say the finance minister is not spending. But that is not to say it is not spending amount that it had planned to spend, because it planned originally to backload expenditure. So, and in some sense, it's built in what the finance minister had planned to do. And that was all along to ensure that they verify some of the expenditure items, especially the arrears side, before they spend. So it would have been programmed that it would take some time before. So you push all of that to the second half of the year. So in a sense, the finance minister has spent almost all what it planned to spend in the first half of the year. And therefore, it is not refusing to spend approved or programmed funds, or it's not refused, or it's not cutting programmed expenditure, or it's not refusing to spend what is programmed to spend. But I think it's obvious that the expenditure has been backloaded.
Right, and that's what I outlining. Then you make reference to that as well. There's one other point that Dr. Kabir Mahama makes, that really there is not much to commend this administration for, or this finance minister for, over the last 6 months, because a foundation has been laid and he's only come to reap from the benefits of that foundation laid by the previous administration. Does that reflect your verdict?
Not really. I think it's so. Yeah, I've heard the argument, and I've heard it being made again today. Now, there are two areas where you can say the finance ministry or the country is benefiting from part of what had been done in the past. One area will be the debt restructuring that has been completed and has reduced the financing needs and has eased the debt payment obligations. That's one. Another area will be the gold purchase program that has been responsible for building very strongly our gold reserves, which meant that the moment the price of gold became very high, our reserve position became very strong. But you have to understand that at least in part of 2024, the previous administration had the benefit of all of these. And because the other complementary policies, the other things that the government then didn't really help this cause, is part of the reason why we didn't see the effect. So if you take, people talk about the impact of tight monetary policy and why it's not having an impact, or it wasn't having an impact then. That's because then the monetary policy was actually trying to correct the fiscal issues. So monetary policy had been kept tight because the government was spending. This time, the fiscal policy is such that it's also being restrained. The expenditure is being restrained. So the monetary policy is reinforcing the fiscal policy. So then you see that it's a much bigger effect. So you can, so those foundations are there, but you can't discount the fact that the finance minister came in and said, look, I'm going to restrain spending. We know the previous government did fiscal consolidation, and this government is also doing fiscal consolidation. An important difference, though, is that the previous government decided that it's going to favor more revenue mobilization, and in particular, adding new tax handles, which was extremely unpopular, which, inhibited business growth. This government has come and said, I'm going to do fiscal consolidation, but I'm going to change the focus and actually focus more on expenditure management and, roll a little bit of the focus on taxes. So this is very deliberate. This is not something that you can say, oh, it's something that the finance ministry inherited from the previous administration. It's a complete change of course from where we were before, of what we were doing before. And we know that has helped. And the fact that the government has done this, has been in a position to actually leverage some of the higher prices of our international, our exports, and make the decision that, okay, I'm going to use that to bring some form of relief. That is something that the previous administration had the benefit of and didn't do. So if somebody has come and done all of these and we're beginning to see the fruits, you cannot say it's a matter of mere luck.
Right.
of course, it helps that there's a change, there's a new administration. It comes with goodwill, but it has used its goodwill well. It has leveraged the goodwill to do things that are working for Ghanaians. So you cannot, you can't discount that and simply say it's something that it has inherited from the previous administration.
I see. But we also spoke earlier to Vincent Assefuah, who is the OTAFO Member of Parliament. And then also, we're going to hear from Dr. George Dunfer in a bit. But this is what Vincent Assefuah said about the state of the economy from his lenses. Take a look.
1 Ghana cedis has been added to every liter of fuel that you buy. Ghanaians are complaining. Drivers are complaining. We said that why don't we have a 1% e-levy? These people lambasted it, made it look as if that we're taking advantage of the Ghanaian people, and they are doing worse. But because of the goodwill, you don't see people talk about it that much. In no time, I'm sure that Ghanaians are going to see that the NDC have not been fair to us.
So you believe NDC hasn't done much, but only riding on the goodwill they have now?
It just optics, settings government. The real policies that they were supposed to be implementing, they are not doing it. And I'm saying that if you come on the altar that let's eliminate corruption, and so you institute oral, but you come to government and you now clear people.
Well, that's Vincent Assefuah. There is the MPP MP for the OTAFO constituency, speaking to my colleague Christian Yale earlier in Parliament. But Mr. Jackson, I know you're still with me. Looking at the next half of the year, as was presented by the Finance Minister earlier today, what are some of the inherent risks within the economy that the Finance Minister should be paying attention to so as to achieve these targets as he put out earlier today?
The first risk is that the Ghana revenues are underperforming. That is a huge risk. Right? The customs revenue shortfall is huge, and we must be concerned. That also dovetails into the fact that smuggling is supposed to be taking away some of our revenue. Wage and salary pressures. I've repeatedly said to everybody, all stakeholders, that Ghana is still broke. Let us not think that the benevolence we've enjoyed and the goodness we've enjoyed means that we are out of the woods yet, right? So they should watch out for wage and wage and salary pressures. The foreign currency is another source of concern. You see, at this moment, there seems to be quite a significant divergence between the Bank of Ghana rates and the forex rates. That is never a good sign. That tells you that we are not able to get dollars from the banks at the rates quoted. Because let's be frank, nobody chooses to go to the forex if they can get it at the bank rate. That divergence tells you that I'm not getting it, so I'm prepared to pay more to get what I want from the Forex Bureau. So they should keep an eye on that divergence and make sure that if our currency is to be stable, like we've enjoyed so far, if it is going to be stable, then they need to look carefully at that widening divergence between the bank rate on one hand and the forex rates on another hand. That is, of course, the debt itself is an issue. Energy sector debt is an issue, and we are glad to know that there was the doomsday levy, or the D levy as they call it, has come into place, will help pay, and there's a negotiation going on with the IPPs, and all those are good news. But we should be careful. Revenue shortfalls are dangerous. The wage pressures, we should be careful, and above all, let's watch that diverging rate. It's not a good sign.
And certainly these are issues we're subject to further conversation. Joe Jackson, you wanted to make a point, Mr. Jackson? Maybe quickly before we go? Quick one.
Let me round up all that we've said today. Listen, if at the end of 2024, the Ghana economy was a patient in intensive care. Now, the signs look better. The vital signs look better. All the swelling has come down. Patient is able to walk and has gone from intensive care to physiotherapy. But it still requires daily monitoring. It still requires us to be very careful. We are not out of the woods yet. I'd like to repeat, all of our stakeholders, all of us, private sector, public sector, employed, unemployed, party people on all sides of the divide, rural, urban, all of us, temper your expectations. We are out of intensive care, but we've just barely started physiotherapy.
It's a very interesting diagnosis of the state of the economy using the medical terminology. But anyway, it certainly paints a certain picture that we can all relate to if you've been through that process before. Thank you. Thank you so much. Joe Jackson is a financial analyst. Thank you for joining us, the CEO of Dalex Finance. We'll come back to the budget matters, but let's take a quick detour. We'll come back to the budget matters. But coming up next, the minority in Parliament staged a walkout. They were not in Parliament earlier today when the Finance Minister addressed that's presented a media budget review, because they went to present a petition to the Jubilee House, the presidency. It was received by Stanislav Dogbe, the Deputy Chief of Staff in charge of operations. The Chief of Staff himself, Julius Debra, was there. And some NDC MPs, they also had some reason to respond to those matters. But let's take a listen to exactly what the NPP MPs presented to the Chief of Staff at the Jubilee House earlier today in that petition. Take a look.
To a very admirable point, and Mr. Chief of Staff, not to bore you with words, Ghana is seen as a beacon and a fledgling democracy. We think that we have contributed hugely. The two main traditions, the NPP and the NDC, both have contributed hugely to building our democracy to the point where we are. The recently held rerun of 19 police stations birthed a lot of issues. I won't try to unpack them here, but a lot of issues that certainly needs our attention of all the variables involved in the political field, particularly government, because a lot of responsibility is on your head. You are in total control of the security of the state. So we are here to present a petition, basically on two important matters. The violence that occurred at the rerun of Ablekuma North election, and we are upbeat about subsequent elections to be held in our country. We are also worried about Kalamse, and it was one of your messages that you trumpeted with all the promise, rightly or wrongly. Now it's getting out of hand. And our respected Chief of Staff, you are an Easterner. If you are traveling between Enyinem and Nkoko, now the Galamsees are coming on the highway. We are told our water bodies are polluted all over. And even farm products, it's been reported that they've discovered heavy metals in foodstuff from the farm. I think in summary, we are here to present this petition and to appeal for your patriotic intervention in these matters. We have confidence in you. We believe you will act. Now, we hear you have 2/3 majority in Parliament. We heard that. But you also need a minority in Parliament to function. Now, if we don't hear anything, and it is business as usual, it is absolute silence, we are not going to hear anything, this is just the beginning of a series of actions we are going to stage in this country. But we won't do anything out of malice to undermine your governance. But as long as the threat of electoral violence keeps rearing its head, and our authorities seem to be at their wit's end, we'll continue to bring these matters into our attention until it is dealt with. So for and on behalf of the entire Minority Caucus, and by the way, Chief of Staff, our real name is the Mighty Minority. So we present this petition, I present this petition for and on behalf of the entire, respectfully, the entire minority. And we have also attempted, I'm sure the seat of government, you have all the videos of the violence, but we've also, just for the benefit of doubt, a recording of footages of the violence that reportedly occurred. We are presenting this to you, through you, to His Excellency the President. And we are confident that the dutiful action will be taken as it should. Grateful. Yes, of course.
So, thank you very much, Chief Whip. So, I've received your petition on behalf of the Chief of Staff of the President. We'll do what to present it to you. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Chief of Staff.
Well, so that's the Chief of Staff there. But follow me, we're going to put this on the screen right now because we have full details of the MPP's demands to the presidency right now. And we're going to put it in on the screen. That's Ablekuma North parliamentary election is one. The rerun and then the illegal mining, that's Galamsey as well. And then first, the demanding an election is one. The rerun and then the illegal mining, that's of Basintale. They are also demanding arrest and prosecution of all perpetrators and independent commission of inquiry under Article 278. They also want an investigation into the police's conduct, the public apology and condemnation from the president. They want that as well. That's one of the demands in the petition. On the matter of illegal mining, they want a declaration of a national emergency under Article 31. Condemn illegal mining across political lines, repeal LI 2462, which allegedly aids illegal mining, prosecute complicit state and party actors, create an independent anti-Galamsey commission, empower forestry and water agencies, and launch a national environmental recovery program. These are the demands that the NPP puts in their petition to the presidency. And this is coming on the heels of the Ghana Police Service press release yesterday, giving an update of their investigation into what happened in Ablekuma North. We're going to put it on the screen. They indicated that they've arrested 2 suspects in connection with the Ablekuma North violence. And they say the Accra Regional Police Command has arrested 2 suspects in connection with the ongoing investigation into the violent incidents and assault recorded during the Ablekuma North parliamentary rerun held on Friday, 11 July 2025. The suspects have been identified as Musa Muntari, 46-year-old station manager at STC, and Ali Said, alias Mboma, a 43-year-old businessman. Both suspects are assisting with investigation. The Accra Regional Police Command assures the public of its commitment to ensure that all persons responsible for acts of violence, intimidation, or misconduct during the elections are brought to justice. The public is encouraged to continue cooperating with the police and to share credible information by calling the emergency numbers as they put out there. Julian Obeng, Superintendent, Head of Public Affairs, signed this one. Now, and I point to this because the NPP, in their demands, they are asking that, one, there should be an independent commission of inquiry and, in fact, an investigation into the police's conduct. They're not satisfied with what's happening right now. Richard Kumado is a security analyst, is joining us on Zoom right now. Mr. Kumado, run through the demands and what the police is just telling us or giving us this update. How does this strike you, the development and the demands by the MPP, this petition to the presidency?
The petition went to the presidency and not the police, then you can understand it's the usual politics between NDC and the MPP. And the MPP is making a political demands, and they've taken a political stance on this particular matter. And that takes away the nuances of politics from the corridors of the police. For the police, we can understand the urgency as which they are working. I was glad to hear the police have issued a statement, and they've mentioned names of suspects in that particular statement. It means that they have a hands-on. They are aware of who has created which problem, and they will want to work with certain specific identifiable people in order to get to the bottom of what happened at Ayawaso West Wogon. So on the side of the police, we can commend them and encourage them to do as much as they can to ensure that we put this matter behind us, considering the fact that there's a by-election pending at Akotia, and all the lessons learned will be put together and sent to Akotia. I am aware that the police have even been to Akotia, even as we, security consultants and independent bodies have also been there to do the initial risk assessment. The police on their own have been there, and that shows that they have taken election and election-related matters seriously in this country, except for the politics of it. And that is the danger we face in this country, and that is a danger to democracy.
What will be the possible response to this, especially because the demands are to be executed by specific institutions? In fact, even though the police has launched investigation into this and picked up 2 persons, minority is demanding more. In fact, they want an investigation into the police's conduct. Mr. Kumado.
No, I saw the body language of the MP who presented the petition and the one who received the petition from Office of the President. And if you read the body language and you are an expert in body language and semantic ID, you can understand the political connotations. I will not be surprised if the presidency issued a statement and said all the issues of investigations, particularly into the Brekumanoff election, it has been handled by the police, and they will urge the police to do more. It means that it is not the presidency that does investigations into some of these matters. The call to the presidency is a wrong one, and they will want to exonerate themselves from it, and they will pass it back on to the police. And we'll be back to where we are. What you and I can do as people within the media space and who comment on national issues is to put a bit more pressure on the police to say that we've had a lot of election violence in the past. Our elections is gradually become a bit more too violent, which is not too necessary, that we will appeal to both sides of the political divide to act according to law and be a bit more responsible when it comes to elections and how they conduct themselves. Because Alfred, you remember that I told you, maintaining law and order by law enforcement agencies, particularly the police, means that good behavior will be marked, orderliness will be marked, disorderliness will be checked, and misbehavior will be investigated and prosecuted. If the police finish their investigations, they will hand over the investigation outcome to the Attorney General. And the Attorney General is the politician who must punish people or who must prosecute people who flout our laws. And when politicians are involved, they must have the courage to do so. Other than that, we are going around in this democracy, and it's affecting our governance, and it's also affecting the frontiers of our democracy. And that is the issue we have to face as Ghanaians.
Mr. Kumado, appreciate your time. Thank you for joining us. Mr. Kumado is a security analyst. This is Ghana Tonight. We're back shortly after this quick break. Stay with us. We're live on 3FM 92.7 as well.
reporting from the Takoradi Market Circle.
From the heart of the Upper West Regional Capital.
From the heart of the Ashanti Kingdom.
Reporting from Sunyani.
From the Central Business District of Navrongo.
The parliamentarians are on recess.
This is where it all unfolds. The moments that potentially alters the course of our nation and the world. These are the individuals we recognize, the voices we amplify, who appears on screen and who contributes behind the scenes. With professionalism at our core, we bring you news you can trust. Impact journalism that makes a difference. This illustrates how diverse perspectives enhance our strength and reinforces our mission. This is 3 News. Leaders in breaking news, exclusive interviews, facts and analysis on TV, radio, online and digital. 3 News, first in news.
Welcome back. You're still live here on Ghana Tonight. We're live as well on 3FM 92.7, also on TV3 Ghana on Facebook, and on DSTV channel 279. We're all across the world on 3news.com. Now, the finance minister had cause to raise issues with the increasing wage bill. In fact, that went beyond the budget of over 1.3 billion. That's what he's, and we're going to put that on the screen right now. And the measures that he says will be put in place to address this. This is what the finance minister said about the increasing wage bill, which is becoming or has become a burden for this government going, in fact, for the first half of the year, and how he intends to also ensure that there's responsive policy intervention to address this. Let's hear from the finance minister. The corrective measures says has been put in place to address the over 1.3 billion cedis that was overspent as a result of the last-minute recruitment by the previous administration into the education sector. Take a look at this.
Years have distorted the single spine pay policy and further burdened the public wage. Mr. Speaker, the government is implementing the following measures to address this challenge. Number 1, we'll conduct regular nationwide staff payroll audit to sanitize the payroll. Mr. Speaker, we'll be realigning all staff from overstaffed areas and defunct MDAs to areas with critical staffing needs. Right, Honorable Speaker, we will finalize the process for the establishment of the Independent Emolument Committee as part of the broader effort to reform and reset public sector pay. And finally, we will issue an executive directive mandating all MDAs to seek approval from the Minister of Finance or the Ministry of Finance before making any commitment with financial implications on the payroll.
That's the finance minister there, and we'll put what I just said on the screen. And I'd want to also appreciate the patience of Professor Patrick Esuming staying with us. We'll round this conversation up with him. It's the finance minister indicating that after the payroll audit, over 14,000 workers have been or have not been verified in the public sector. And think about that. Over 53,300 separated staff still on the public payroll receiving money. And over 150 million cedis in unearned salaries to be recovered. That's the finance minister talking there. Professor Patrick Esuming, maybe finally, before I let you go, and I appreciate your patience, with all of these measures and the policies that you hear the finance minister outline there, and the hope that all these measures would address the revenue loopholes in the revenue collection system and in the public sector. We saw what was in the Auditor General's report that was released about 4 or 5 days ago. We've been analyzing it. It doesn't look good. What should be done to consolidate the gains and to address these matters going forward?
It seems to me that, let me step back. So I think the most effective policies or the gains that we are seeing are mostly from adjustment in the fiscal policy and the monetary side, the financial policies. Those are the easier ones to do. So changing how the government fiscal side works. What you need to do to reinforce that is to back that with serious governance reforms. For instance, reining in or improving controls on public expenditure management that prevents political appointees from making commitments without the necessary funding. That was one of the main reasons why in the last quarter of last year, in spite of being an IMF program, we were able to we saw the extent of the slippage that we saw, because those controls were not there. So I think even the reforms, the structural reforms that the government has done up to this point, are very important. The only caveat is that we always seem to pass our legislation in such a way that there's always a window for politicians to play with. And so I think you have to put that caveat there. But in terms of implementing the structural reforms that on paper should help deal with the fiscal gains, you have to be pleased with what you have seen. In terms of changing the structure of the economy, that takes longer. It takes a much longer time. What this government is trying to do is with its flagship programs, the 24-hour economy, the Nkukon Ketenkete, Ejumewura, and the other things. Those ones take longer.
Right.
And at the moment, I'm not sure that we have enough fiscal space to implement them as we should without additional revenue measures coming in. I think that is the area where I haven't quite seen enough.
Right.
Yes, the finance minister re-emphasized the VAT reforms. And by the way, I don't criticize the finance minister that that's taking long. I think it's better that they take their time and do a good job.
Okay.
But I'm not so sure that the VAT reforms in and of itself will be enough to generate the required additional revenue and to create the fiscal space needed.
Right. Professor Patrick Esuming, thank you so much for joining us. He is a professor of economics at the University of Ghana. joining us with his thoughts as well. Thank you, Joe Jackson. Appreciate you as well. And Richard Kumado. But a number of you have also been sharing your thoughts about this media budget review. How does it reflect your reality and over the first 6 months of the year? And 783 of you responded to this one we put on our X page. 78% of 783 of you who responded to this say that, yes, the finance minister's verdict on the state of the economy over the past 6 months reflects your reality. 17% of you say no. 5% of you say you are indifferent about this. A number of you shared your comments and views with us. Kwesi says, I want to hear from him the recoveries from oral. Alexander says, this budget is called evidence budget. He's really doing well, and I pray for continuing help. This one, Abomensa says 100% yes. There's no need to ask again. We are now seeing the application of economics to solve human needs. Atofosing is making his predecessors look as if they were, Said says, just SHS financial secretaries, you say. Transport fares alone has done a lot of magic, you say. Thank you. And quite a number of you. We have a number of the comments on TV3 Ghana, on Facebook and on X. On behalf of the rest of the team, thank you for joining us. The conversation about the analysis of the post-media budget review presentation by the Finance Minister continues tomorrow on New Day, also on Sunrise on 3FM 92.7. On behalf of the rest of the team, we do appreciate your company. I am Alfred. Ocansey. Have a good night.
Ghana Tonight is brought to you by Flamingo Paint. Superior durability, superior hiding, superior coverage, simply superior.
Sasso insecticide spray and coil.